Chapter 13, Generation of Abraham. Begin all acts and thinking by using El-Kalun the All. Tablet 3, Abrams Journey to Tama-Re Kemet. 19 times 10 equals 190. Lo, in time, when Abraham came near to enter into northern Egypt, Alexandria, that he, Abram, said unto Sarah, Behold now, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look upon. However, Abram was obliged to make his journeys to Palestine, Syria, Tama-Re and Becca. The Pharaoh Khufu. As Abram went south into Tama-Re, also called Egypt, he told Sarah, You will have to be my full sister this day, for the Pharaoh Khufu will see you and take you by force, and even kill me. And in time, when Abram came into Tama-Re, now called Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman Sarah in the physical form was exceedingly beautiful, and the chieftain princess of the Pharaoh, meaning he who lives in a big house, saw her in the physical form and praised her to Pharaoh. And Sarah was taken into the royal harem of the Pharaoh Khufu. And he showed favour to Abram, and the Pharaoh gave him herds and cows and asses, and male slaves, and slave girls, and she-asses and camels. Sarah lived there for 5 years. During this time, the wives of the Pharaoh Khufu, namely Kehet and Canaan, took Sarah to the gynecologist for a tube ligation to cut or tie the fallopian tubes. When Sarah arrived at the gynecologist, she convinced the doctor not to cut her tubes, but to give her a reversible tube ligation to clamp her tubes instead of cutting them. She told him that Abram would soon come for her, and the wives of Khufu were afraid that she might bear a child that could possibly inherit the throne of Khufu, and they who had been waiting for years to have a son would not allow that to happen. As a result of the tube ligation, Sarah was barren and unable to reproduce, so they made her barren, but for 5 years she lived in the house of Khufu, never to have a child. Meanwhile, a little further down the Nile, Abraham settled in Memphis, located in the east of Tama-Re, ancient Egypt near Giza. There he lived luxuriously for 5 years on behalf of Sarah. At the same time, Abram also met his second wife-to-be, Hagar, daughter of the famous scribe Emotep, who was also known as Uphiel and Abdul-Hamid, the 9th elder of Fatah, a pygmy. Emotep was the one chosen by El-Elo and one of the 24 elders, the sons of El-Elo, called Alahum. The great technological advancements of the 24 elders paved the way for the future pharaohs of Egypt. The Egyptians were a great civilization, with many Nubian scientists, spiritual healers, mystics, astronomers and mathematicians like Zoser, who did the genetic splicing for the making of the extermination device called Al-Kinza, the pig. Abram meets Emotep. The high priest Emotep, son of Fatah and Credu-Ankh, heard of how the pharaoh's hand was healed. Being a student of Zoser, the great healer, he went to visit Abram, and on his visit, Emotep was accompanied by his daughter, who was the most beautiful woman at that side of the world. Her name was Hagar, daughter of Emotep and Russia. Emotep gave Abraham his daughter as a wife in his house. He said, Although she would have been a princess in Tama-Re, also called Egypt, El-Roi sent my daughter to you, and she would be better a wife in your house than a queen of any other. This act was done because her father saw the wonders which were done for Sarah. She also knew that from Hagar's seed, the tribe of the Tama-Rean Egyptians would come back into the house of Abram, and they would be part of a great covenant. Zoser, by birth, who became known as Nekeket, meaning a creator in flesh, which was given to him after his initiation into the order of Zadok, is a high priest after the order of Malachi Zadok, who is the king of peace. Neteket Zoser, son of Karsik Himaway and Nima Afafi, his pyramid, which was built by the master Emotep, was intended and used for a temple of initiation into the deeper sciences of mystics. He himself was Hierophant priest at his temple. He was the author of the sciences. He was the author of the works on alchemy called Hermetic sciences and mathematics, which is where Pythagoras stole his mathematical formulas. These formulas he attributed to himself and called it Pythagorean theorem. Arts, this is where hieroglyphics originated. Architecture, he initiated the use of levitation, the process which the elders used to move some of the stones in the construction of the pyramids. He also initiated the use of the laser, a device device used for cutting stone. Emotep, under the guidance of Zoser, acquired the knowledge needed to calculate the precise dimensions for the construction of the first pyramid, the Step Pyramid. Emotep was the first officer in Zoser's court. He is also known as the chief builder, the knowledge of which, some of it he obtained from Zoser. It was during this reign that hieroglyphics had been preferred. He received his power and knowledge from El-Qadir Murdoch, son of Enki and Damkina. Emotep took Abram to Zoser, the master healer, to find the way to heal and cure the diseases of the curse of leprosy. In the New Canaan, there was a clean type of leper, meaning civilized. In Haran, the old Canaan, was the unclean leper. He was unclean all the way back to the Caucasus Mountains and its surrounding areas. These unclean lepers of animalistic nature walked on all fours. They ate raw flesh, no matter whether it was clean or unclean, and they were covered with raw and open sores. They were half animal and half man, a result of bestiality. They were called the beast. This is why lepers in the seed of Canaan are called the ape men, or the men of the cave. There were many dead carcasses in the Caucasus Mountains, and many being born with leprosy. It had also spread diseases, which caused a mass famine. The combination of the animals. Now Zoser had come up with something that was just as nasty as these creatures. It had to be so filthy as to develop an immunity so as not to be infected by this spreading disease. This thing had to have enough smarts or finesse to avoid being literally gobbled up by these savage lepers. It had to be dumb enough not to be afraid of the most grotesque things. The dog was the first chosen because he possessed the nature of the jinn. The dog is the animal that mankind loves so much. The second animal was the rat. It had to be the rodent because it eats anything, including all manner of filth, and he is nothing but a big disease, immune to disease by his own filth. The animal vowed to plague humanity because of this act. The third animal will have to be clean by nature and have wisdom. This was the cat. The cat, because of her wisdom, overstood the operation. She vowed to protect the seed of Cadman against the rat. Cats are catered to all around the world. Women have used cats in witchcraft practices, and they are known as the most commonly used pets. The cat was the most different animal because he was clean in nature and wise, and this was the animal that could outsmart the dog. These are the three mixed natures that make up the pig. Netaket, the son of Karsik Hemaway, solved the problem by crossbreeding the cat and the dog, and this creation was then crossbred with the rat. This process was accomplished basically by fusion. Fusion is the act or process of melting the abnormal, the bringing together of adjacent parts of the body. By the process of fusion, he combined with a certain protein, the sperm and the egg. Through this process, two different mammalian creatures may be brought together. However, this is a very delicate process which requires much control and conditioning, and for the type of makeup Zoser wanted to achieve, it also required a special breeding. In order for you to understand how much Zoser was able to combine the natures of the rat, the cat and the dog, you must understand fertilization. The first goal was fusion, and the method: fuse two alien eggs and make two nuclei to form a single nucleus, allowing for maturation of the chromosomes for a balanced chromosomal makeup, allowing breeding for a more controlled and refined strain, which was then to be fused with a third alien cell. After coming up with the third thing, he still had to crossbreed for the nature of the animal. Then after that, he still had to make sure that he had males and females that could reproduce after their own kind. Zoser combined the cat, the rat and the dog, which equaled the swine. The first breed that Zoser came up with was the wild boar, but the wild boar Abram had no control over, for the wild boar did what it wanted to and would belt you to death if you stood in its way. Its speed is unbelievable, which is a fact to this day. Zoser came up with the swine finally, and its nature was that of the rat, the cat and the body of a dog. The first converts of Abraham was Lot, son of Haran and Sarah. Abrams Return. The abduction of Sarah brought the wrath of Yahuwah. Yahuwah stricken the Pharaoh in his house with a modern great disease. The Pharaoh Khufu believed that Sarah was only Abram's sister. However, word had spread around about Abram and that he was coming up the Nile again. Khufu started putting two and two together and realized the plague started coming upon his kingdom because of Sarah. He then realized she was not Abram's sister, but also his wife. Thus, afterward the Pharaoh summoned Abram and said, "What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your confident wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my confident wife? Now therefore, here she is thy confident wife. Take her and go your way." The Pharaoh gave his Enoshites human beings charge concerning him Abram, and they sent him away with his confident wife Sarah and all that he had. And Abram departed from Mamre, meaning fatness, there towards that part of the planet Earth of the south. And he dwelt between Gadash, holy place, and Shur, where the well is. And later he sojourned to Gerar, the lodging place, and Philistine south of Gaza, Ashkelon, also called the Kebulan. And the Philistines are from Casluhim, who are from Mitzrayim. But on another occasion, when he arrived upon entering Tama-Re, this very same land, he was obliged to give 1/10 of all he carried with him to the arresting officer. He found it necessary to carry Sarah with him in a chest when he was arriving near towns. Abraham opened all his chests but one, in which Sarah was concealed. When the officer proceeded to search it too, Abram said, suppose the officer commanded him to open it. Abram begged him to pass it unopened, and he offered him again to give him 1/10 of all he carried, as if it were filled with gold and jewels. The officer insisted on seeing the contents of the chest when he beheld Sarah. He was so dazzled by her beauty that he ran forth with her to the father of the Pharaoh, reporting what had happened. The Pharaoh's father Abimelech immediately summoned Abram and inquired of him, "Who is the maiden whom you carry with you?" Abram, thinking he would be put to death if he avoided the truth, replied, "She is my sister." And Abram said that Sarah, his confident wife, was his sister. Abimelech, ruler of Gerar, took Sarah from Abram, but the Elohim, one of the Elos, came to Abimelech in a dream of the shadow hour, and he said to him, "Behold, you are about to die, because the female living being whom you have taken by force is another Adonai's possession." Now Abimelech did not have sex with Sarah, and he said, "O Adonai my master, will you even kill a Zodokite righteous of a Gentile nation? Abraham did tell me that she Sarah is his sister, and she even herself said, he Abram is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands I have done this." And the Anunnaki said to him, Abimelech, in the dream, "Yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart that you have done this, and I also withheld for you from going wrong against me, therefore I did not let you touch her." And Abimelech rose early in the daylight hour and called all his slaves and told all these Elos in their ears, and the Enoshites of them were very afraid. Then Abimelech called Abram and said to him, "What have you done to us, and how have I done wrong towards you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom an old wrong? You have done deeds to me you should not have done." And Abram said, "Because I thought that surely out of fear the Anunnaki was not in this place, and they will kill me for my confident wife's sake. And moreover, Sarah is indeed my sister and the daughter of my father, he who is called Terah, meaning wild goat wandering, but not the daughter of my mother Norna, meaning dimpled chin. For she has been touched by the hand of the Anunnaki, and that dimple appeared in the center of her chin. Such are those with dimples in their chin. And she, Sarah, became my confident wife, and in time, that when the Elohim caused me to wander from my father Terah's house, and I said to her, Sarah, this is your kindness which you shall show to me, and every place that we shall come, say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male slaves and women slaves, and gave them to Abram, and restored him Sarah his confident wife. And Abimelech said, "Here, my part of the planet Earth is in front of your face, dwell where it is agreeable to you." And unto Sarah he said, "Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is for you a covering of the eyes to all that are with you, and that you are indeed innocent." And Abram judged for the Elohim, and the Elohim healed Abimelech and his confident wife and his concubines, and they had children after that, because Yahuwah Adonai had closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abram's confident wife. The commandment to wear veils. By this, Anu sent the Anunnaki Gabriel unto Abraham, and told him that the woman of his seed would possess such beauty, and it is best not to carry them in chests, but from that day forward the woman would be ordained to wear the face veil at all times, in the presence of those other than their own family and tribes in their own land, but in the midst in the cities of strangers they should wear face veils and head covering over their bosom, to protect them from the eyes of strangers. This, he said, will keep their intoxicating mind of lust under control, and not to feast your eyes on Anu's chosen daughters. The face veil became law, not to be violated by any and all righteous women. Abrams journeyed to the mountains, a place where there was neither water nor cultivation. Accordingly, he dug a well there. The water flowed up to the surface of the soil, but he had spent all the food he had bought, and there was a great distance between him and any inhabited locality. He took a big bag in order to go out in search of wheat. He went away and left his companions alone. They became much perplexed. He had no food, and they knew not what to do. At last, he thought of himself, and he filled the big bag with gravel and sand, thinking that Sarah and Hagar would be pacified on beholding the full bag. When he had returned home, he fell asleep for shame. Whereupon Sarah and Hagar examined the bag, and they found it full of wheat. Then they ground some of it in a hand mill and baked bread. Meanwhile, his father Terah became afraid at the shadow hour. He left to go up further into the mountains. He was seized by lepers and he caught leprosy. He was trying to tell Nimrod about the approach of Abram. When Abram awakened, they called him to eat. He asked what was to eat, and Sarah informed him that they had baked bread of the wheat that he had bought. He was astonished at the news and praised Elyon El. He kept some of the wheat for consumption, and he sowed the remainder in the field. When they found his father had disappeared, he was much surprised and saddened. When they had first reached the mountains, Terah told him that his mission to clean up and civilize the lepers was not wise. But it was Abram's faith in Elyon El that enabled him to receive the bread and carry out his mission in civilizing and clean up the inhabitants of the Caucasus Mountains. Abraham and Lot. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he, Sarah, and all he had, and Lot was with him, into the south. And Abraham was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold. And he went on his journeys from the south, even to Bethel, to the place where his tabernacle had been at the beginning, between Bethel, to this place for sacrificing animals for food, which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of Yahuwah. And Lot also, who went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tabernacles. And the land of Lot's father Haran was not able to bear them, that they might dwell there together, for their substance was great, in that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle, and the herdsmen who looked with a physical eye over the herds of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanites and the Perizzee, meaning to breach, dwelt in that part of the planet Earth. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray you, between me and you, and between my herdsmen who look over my herds, and your herdsmen who look over your herds, for we are brothers. This is now really your land from your father. Separate yourself, I beg you, from me. If you will take the left hand, and I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and looked over all the plains of Jordan, he who is the descender, and saw that it was very well watered over all its surface in front of the face of Yahuwah. Even Sodom and Gomorrah, before they were destroyed, it was very well watered, just like the enclosed garden of Yahuwah, and like Egypt, as you go unto Zoar, the insignificant city. So Lot chose for himself all the plains of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from the other. Abram dwelt in that part of the planet Earth of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the district in the valley, and they moved his tabernacle as far as Sodom. The plea for Sodom. Now the Enoshites, human beings of Sodom, which means a burning place, named after its destruction, not before, were disagreeable and sinners against Yahuwah exceedingly. And Yahuwah said unto Abram, after Lot was separated from him, Now lift up your eyes, and look from the place where you are, northward, southwards, eastward, and westward. For all that part of the planet Earth which you see with your physical eyes, to you I will give it, and to all your seed forever. And I will make all your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if any living human being can number the dust of the planet Earth, then may your whole seed also be numbered. Rise, walk about in that part of the planet Earth, to its length and to the width of it, for unto you I will give it. Then Abram removed his tabernacle, and came to settle in the oak area of Mamre, amongst the cursed seed of Canaan, with the tribe of the Amorites, the land of Mamre, which means strength, which is in Hebron, which means to associate. And there he built a Mazbah, an altar, a place for sacrificing animals for food for Yahuwah. And in time, in the days of Amraphel, keeper of the treasures, whose real name was Hammurabi, the sixth ruler of the first dynasty, he made all the laws that rule to this very day, ruler of Shinar, meaning plains of the flatlands, Sippar and Larsa of Babylon after Nimrod. Arioch, he who is like a lion, ruler of Elasar, strong oak of Assyria. Kedorlaomer, he who keeps the swords, weapons, ruler of Elam, of the highlands. And Tidal, a slanderous one, ruler of the Gentiles, and they made battle with Bera, meaning son of the disagreeable ones, ruler of Sodom, with Bersha, meaning with iniquity sinful ways. He was a homosexual, and the ruler of Gomorrah, which means submersion, where baptism gets its origin. Sinab, meaning splendid of his father, ruler of Admah, of the seed of the Adamite of the ground. And Shemaba, meaning up and over there, ruler of Zeboim, keeper of the gazelle, and the ruler of Bela, he who destroys, the same as Zoa, insignificant city. All of these beings were joined together in the valley, the salt sea. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, the early Persian ruler, and in the 19th year they rebelled, and in the 14th year Kedorlaomer, meaning handful of sheaves, came out, and the rulers that were with him, and killed the Rephaim, a race of giant healers. In Ashtaroth Karnaim, the two horns, and the Zuzims, an aboriginal tribe of Palestine, in the part of the planet Earth of Ham and the Emims, meaning dazzling bright, and the rulers that were with him, and they smote the Rephaim of the old race of giants, who mixed with the seed of Adam, also called the Nephilims, of the part of the planet Earth of Bashan, meaning fruitful. Og, long-necked, was their ruler in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Horites cave dwellers, who mixed in with the Emori and lived in Mount Seir. Also of Edom, in Mount Seir, are the part of the planet Earth of the Shaggies. To El Paran, the uninhabited part of the planet Earth. And they returned, and came to En Mishpat, the holy fountain of justice, the same El Gadash, and killed all the country of the Amalekites, fighters, grandsons of Esau the Edomite, and also the Amorites, the mountain dweller, of the cursed seed of Canaan, albinos with leprosy. They dwelt in Hazazon Tamar, where the date palms divide, an Amorite city, and there went out the ruler of Sodom, and the ruler of Gomorrah also, and the ruler of Admah, and the ruler of Zeboim, gazelles, and the ruler of Bela, the same is Zoar. And they started the battle against them in the valley of Siddim, open country, with Kedorlaomer, ruler of Elam, and Tidal splendor, the ruler of the Goyim, the Gentiles, and Amraphel, keeper of the Els, the ruler of Shinar flatlands, and Arioch, lion-like, the ruler of Elasar, oath of Assyria. 4 rulers against 5. Now Siddim the valley was full of slime pits, and the rulers of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and they met violent deaths there, and they that remained fled to the mountain, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all of their food, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother, Haran's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and they took his goods and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and reported all this to Abram the Hebrew, the one who crossed over, who was living near a sacred tree in the plain of Mamre, Fatness, the mountain dweller Mamre, and his brothers, Beshkol, Cluster, and his brother Anna, a young man. And these were the allies of Abram. And when Abram heard that his nephew Lot was taken captive, he led forth his trained servants, born in his house, and pursued as far as Dan, the home of the tribe of the great Samson, the son of Manoah, who met Delilah. He divided himself against them by shadow hours, and his servants had attacked them, and pursued them to Hobah, Lovely, their hiding places north of Syria, which is on the left hand of Damascus. He chased them out of Europe back down into Asia, and he brought back all of the goods, and also brought back his nephew Lot and his goods, and the living female being also, and the nation of people.